Rah Hokum for the Boxing Voice. I'm delighted to be speaking to light welterweight contender, is it? Sajid Abid?
Light welter, yeah. So we're having my first light welter competition on Saturday. But yeah, light welter, that's where we're at.
Yeah, good weekend for you to be out on a small hall show because there's none of the big guys stealing your thunder this weekend. Yeah, light welterweight. Now, we last saw you out, probably best known for a couple of big shows over in the Middle East. Those fights were at welterweight. I guess you've decided light welterweight's a better weight class for you. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. The thing is, we made welterweight pretty easy, and we thought to ourselves, just give it that extra push, see how things work out in, as a super lightweight slash light welterweight, whatever you want to call it. And here we are, weighing tomorrow, more or less on weight. So I can't complain. It's gone well.
I've been speaking to a couple of coaches of late. Dave Caldwell, he was talking about how in some parts of the world, fighters will do pretty insane things with weight making, and if you're comfortable, then they think you're doing it wrong. I.e., they'll boil down sort of crazy amounts of weight. But obviously, I guess you don't want to do that. I don't know how safe that actually is, but you can find yourself at a size disadvantage.
Yeah, 100%. As you can imagine, a lot of fighters do tend to do that. The thing is, the British board have implemented obviously the 10-day, the 3-day, and the day before weigh-in when it comes to these title fights, just so that their fighters aren't really, draining themselves as much as what they shouldn't be draining. I believe on a 3-day weigh-in, it's a maximum of 3% of the agreed fight weight is the max you can weigh at. So they've kind of put a bit of a safety net in that.
I guess in parts of Latin America and Southeast Asia in particular, they probably don't have the same sort of safety measures in place. So can you just tell us a bit about your career then? Like I said, you had gone over to the Middle East for a while? Now you're back here, or was that just for a couple of fights?
No. So how it worked is the show that I fought on the Amir undercard back in Jeddah, that was completely out of the blue. An opponent dropped out, and they offered it to me, and as you can imagine, it's an opportunity I'm going to miss out on. So went ahead of it. I lost, but it's one of those things that worked out more in my favor. So we built up a good relationship with the promoters over there, so SBL, Bill Dazn, Amir Khan himself, and they welcomed us back to the show in Dubai, which was my last fight before this.
So, what about your whole boxing career? Can you tell us how did you get into boxing? When did you start? Am I right in thinking you're a relation of Coach Askey?
Yeah, he's my uncle. He's my uncle. So he's the one who actually got me into boxing in the first place. I was about 12, I believe, and he was just like, "Look, Sonny, let's go to the gym." And I've been a boxing gym, and I enjoyed it ever since. Another thing that I found is because I'm so back then I was really asthmatic, and sports in general was my thing. I really enjoyed it, but because every so often I went for a run or tried chasing after a ball, I was out of breath after a couple of steps. But the training that I got from boxing helped improve that, and I just found myself falling in love with the sport.
And what was your amateur career like? Did you win much?
One amateur fight at the age of 17 or 18. I can't remember. It's that far back now. And then they were like, my coach was like, "Look, just keep training and we'll turn you over pro." So at the age of 20, I had my first pro fight. Obviously, looking back, it's one of those things where, I wish I had my amateur fights, but I'm at a stage now which I'm quite content with. So, it is what it is.
Oh, that's pretty impressive. One amateur fight and you're already 10-1. So done pretty well.
Wrong. Yeah, 100%. I mean, mind you that in the first 3 years as a professional, I only had three fights. So in essence, it's kind of learning on the job. So it's taken its time to get me where I am right now and get me comfortable fighting as I am now.
And then this fight on Saturday against Tom Ansell, who's got a very similar record to yourself. It's your first 10 rounder,
Yeah.
so it's fair to say the armbands are off. You're going to have to swim now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I've been fighting 4-rounders my whole professional career, but I've got to that point where we're like, look, we're ready for this. So we jump straight to a 10-rounder, no concerns whatsoever. I've trained hard for it. I'm, doing 10-round spars on a regular, and I'm up for it. I'm more than up for it.
Yeah. And is this fight going to be for anything? Is it an eliminator for any particular title? Or?
Yeah, so it's eliminator for the English title, which was recently won by Billy Eilington. So we're gonna take this fight, see how it goes, and then hopefully challenge for the English.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we actually covered that show, that TM40 plan. So yeah, I've spoke to Billy and the Ginger Rocket himself, who's of course now moving up. He felt he won, but anyway, Billy's the champion, so we could see you against Billy in the near future.
Yeah, potentially.
If all goes well.
That's the aim, or whoever's holding the English title at the time. That's the main aim for us.
Mm-hmm. If that fight doesn't come off immediately, would you go for a regional title, maybe Midlands area, something like that?
You know what? Whatever my manager thinks is best. At the end of the day, I've got faith. I've put my faith in him and my career. So whatever he says is best, we'll go for that.
Mm-hmm. And who is your management team at the moment?
So I'm managed by Steve Goodwin Promotions.
Okay.
Alongside obviously Steve himself, Kevin Campion. So yeah.
And your coach?
Sorry, say that again. You broke up a bit.
Who's your coach?
So my coach is a local Derby trainer, Dan Gray. I've been working with him for the past year and a bit, I believe. No, yeah, about a year and a bit. So my team consists of Dan Gray, trainer, Ifran Khalid, who's my cousin, and to be fair, when I got back into boxing, he's been with me since the start of that. Because obviously I took a bit of a leeway before coming back into boxing, signing with Goodwin. But obviously Ifran is a part of the team, and he more or less looks over everything we do. I'd go as far as saying he's our strategist. Our go-to guy whenever we need to plan things or move forward.
Mm-hmm. And are you a full-time pro?
No. I'm working at a surgery alongside it, and also I train people, so it's more or less juggling those three together.
Common practice for most pros, especially since the pandemic. A lot of you can't get regular enough fights to do it full time. So can I just
before
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so I was saying before we fight in Dubai, I fought, I believe, in 2019, 2020. So it would have been about a year and a bit of a gap.
Mm-hmm. So
go for it.
From now on, you would like to fight regularly, several times a year at least, especially now that you're in 10 rounders and looking for titles.
Yeah, 100%. I'm consistently in the gym, so the only thing that was lacking at the period of time is just being able to fight. Now, hopefully, there isn't going to be another case where we'd have to wait God knows how long for another fight. So yeah, the more fights, the better, really.
Yeah, and hopefully the pandemic restrictions are over, and these shows can come on thick and fast now. So your uncle Askey, he's very well connected. He's been in the training camps of a lot of top level fighters. Has he been able to get you into the camps and sparring with any of these top guys?
It's difficult. The thing is, because I work 9 to 5, so whatever times he'd be able to try range is whilst I'm working. So it's difficult. It's difficult. It was a really difficult situation.
Okay, I just want to ask you about a couple of really big fights that have happened recently. Of course, the thing that's on everyone's lips at the moment is what happened Saturday night. The same division that you're in, the undisputed super lightweight championship up in Scotland.
Oh right, okay.
That controversial decision. What do you make of that?
Taylor.
Did you make Jack the clear winner?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I've been watching highlights, but the thing with highlights, they tend to be biased towards one boxer over the other. So I personally can't make an opinion on that. From the highlights I have seen, obviously Jack Catterall, he looked at bee's knees. He's definitely announced himself as an elite at that level. But until I actually watched the whole fight, I can't make an honest opinion about it. As for everyone else, I've seen every statement, every comment from other people. They've all said the same thing. It was robbery. It was a robbery for Jack Catterall, but boxing, what can you do about it? Scoring is subjective, so you just have to go with what the professionals say.
Sure. I mean, you don't give any credence to the sort of what us, the fans and laypersons, say that there must be some corruption involved, because it always seems to be the house fighter that gets the favour.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's be honest, it's always a case of boxing. The home fighter does get that little bit extra support, should I say. But hey, well, what can you say?
Do you think is it actual outright corruption or incompetence or just human weakness? Because I remember when I was talking to my media colleagues ringside, I was saying to them, yeah, I think Jack won, but I don't think the judge is going to give it to him, because from the 6th round on, the crowd was roaring every time Josh Taylor threw a punch. So is it just that they get swayed by that sort of thing?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like I said, scoring in general is quite subjective to the individual. So, from one angle, if it looks like the guy's clearly blocked it, but to the judges, he's taking that shot. It's one of those things. One would mark it as a shot, one would mark it as not being, a clear hit. So it's subjective. Judging is completely subjective.
Do you have any ideas on what could be done about it? I remember back in the 90s, Don King mooted the idea that there should be open scoring, that each judge's scores should go up at the end of each round. But don't know how much that would help, but you have any ideas?
I tell you someone who had a bit of a, no, not really, but I tell you someone who had a pretty interesting point. Jake Paul mentioned something about scoring as well, about how each judge should be partnered together and collectively come up with a score. So they said a total of six judges, top partnered up, and then come up with a score individually. So at least they have two heads to one.
It's one idea. Eddie Hearn made an interesting point at press conference, I think it was on Sunday, when asked about it. He said that it seems to be the same old judges for year upon year. You don't get many new faces. Is there some reason why ex-pros don't often become referees or judges?
You know what? That is a good shout, to be fair. I don't know. You could argue they probably don't get paid enough to do it, or it's just one of those things where it's a hard question. I can't answer that. I haven't got a clue.
Is it something you'd consider?
I haven't got a clue.
When your career's over?
It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. It's fair. Well, my career's over. I'm going to look into training for judging, but no. So it does make sense to have Xboxers do it, because they've been in the ring, they experienced it. They can possibly notice a few more things than a judge would. But hey, like I said, it's one of those things.
As you said, maybe it's something that sport collectively needs to look at to find recruit ex-fighters. I mean, there's always ex-fighters who are at a loose end when their careers are over. So you would have thought that it shouldn't be too difficult to get them to stay in the sport in that sense.
Yeah, true.
Another big fight, of course, the couple of weeks back now. Fight that you said you've had some involvement with, Amir Khan. It was an electrifying night in Manchester. Looks like probably a sad end, but inevitable, as it always happens. Fighters do stay on for one too many. Is that how you read the situation?
You know what? The thing is with obviously Khan and Brook, it built up quite well. you know how a lot of people are saying that it's way past its sell-by date? Yeah, fair enough, but people still want to watch that fight. Tickets are sold out pretty much straight away. Brook looked in phenomenal shape. Khan looked in phenomenal shape. You would have thought it's going to be a less one-sided fight. It was still exciting, don't get me wrong. It was still an exciting fight. But Khan just didn't look himself, you know, whether you want to blame that to age or he, you know, looked over Brook, but, you know, Brook rightfully won. In my personal opinion, I thought he had a bit of a shoulder issue. Reason being is because in the public weigh-in, he'd only shadow box, so it was only light shadow boxing. And then on the day of the fight, there was heavy cupping marks around the shoulder. And you don't ever get wet cupping that close to a fight because it drains you. It takes out quite a substantial amount of blood. So you're never going to feel good after that for at least a couple of weeks. And funny enough, straight after the fight, he used his jacket as a makeshift sling to rest his right arm. So that was basically my opinion on how it went. In the fight, he didn't really throw many right hands. It was double, triple jabs. Basically, just looked like he was in survival mode.
Yeah, there was some odd things there. I mean, I've had this discussion with a couple of guys outside, Johnny Nelson and amongst others, that all the talk beforehand that all their legacy is on the line. I mean, personally, I disagree. I mean, would you say actually when you look at a fighter's legacy, you look at the whole career, not their last couple of fights where they're clearly on the decline? How would you assess Amir's legacy? I personally think it's actually a huge legacy.
It's incredible. It's one of the best in British boxing, if not the best. Look, for example, if he never won that silver medal in the Olympics, we wouldn't have half of the boxer we have today. Look, I look up to him as a boxer. You know, I remember when I was younger watching him fight. To actually be involved in SBL was like a dream come true for me. You know, he's paved the way for a lot of fighters out there. So his legacy is more or less intact. You know, if anything, that fight's basically showed us like he's got a bigger pair than anyone to still want to fight Brook. So, you know, mate, anyone who says anything about his legacy or try to tarnish his legacy, they don't know shit. Simple as. I think that's the best way to put it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried making that point with Johnny Nelson. I said, well, look, nobody remembers Mike Tyson for getting knocked out by Lennox Lewis at the age of 36.
Yeah.
You remember Mike Tyson for the 20-year-old that was knocking everyone out. So
exactly. I think it's one of those things where it was said just to sensationalize it a bit more than they should. Altogether, both Brook and Khan, they've had exceptional careers, so you can't fault any of them, regardless of who would have won or lost that fight. Their legacy 100% remains intact. Can't fault them.
Yeah, well, as one career comes to an end, life goes on. The next generation are coming up. I mean, a lot of these British Asian youngsters, guys like the young Azim brothers, Hamza Shiraz, Akid Fiaz, I'm sure a lot of them probably were inspired partly by Amir's success, and their contribution to the sport will probably be huge in the coming years. And that's not to mention all the stuff Amir has done over in Dubai, India, Pakistan, brought more eyes to the sport in a part of the world which traditionally doesn't have much of a boxing tradition. So
yeah, exactly.
The full extent of his legacy we might not see for decades, because maybe 20 years from now, some kids who are 5 or 10 years old now, 10 years from now might be sort of competing at the top level.
Of course.
They might come over from India and Pakistan. So let's see how that goes. So, okay, Sajid, it was nice to catch up with you, and thanks for your insights on a couple of these recent big fights. Anything you want to add?
Just online, Rah. I mean, obviously, I've got to give a shout out to my sponsors. Without them, I couldn't really be doing half what I'm doing now. So it'd be wrong for me for not to not shout them out. So got Unity Cafe, local cafe in Derby, JS Tiling, great tiling service, and the body therapist. He's the guy I go to for my recovery. So sorted. They're my people.
Fab to those 3 local businesses supporting a local boy. And okay, well, good luck for Saturday. It all
Appreciate
goes
my
well.
friend. Thank you.
We should see you in some bigger fights later this year.
Fingers crossed. That's what I aim for, mate. Cheers.
All right. Sajid, thanks for speaking to the Boxing Voice.
Pleasure's mine. You take care, mate.
Thank you.
For the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Untitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.